Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, hello, I'm Samantha. I'm the owner of Stickers by Samantha, and today we're going to talk about the fees on Etsy. Now, if you've heard of Etsy, you've heard of the fees. Everybody knows that Etsy takes a lot of fees, and I'm here to talk about if it's worth it or not as somebody who's sold on Etsy for 4 years. And I've also had a website and I've also sold on Instagram before, so I feel like I'm very qualified to talk about my experience with the fees, how I make up for them, and my advice to other sellers. I'm just going to start off the video by saying I personally think everybody should have an Etsy. I feel like if you sell handmade goods, you should have an Etsy. It can't hurt. It does cost a little bit to start. You have to pay 20 cents for listing fees, but I honestly think it's so worth it because it's a marketplace where people can search and find your products. Whereas, like a separate website or an Instagram, you kind of have to do more of the marketing for that. But I just wanted to say that right off the bat before I get into too much detail. I think everybody should have an Etsy, regardless of the fees. First of all, it is super valid to not like the fees. I hate fees. As somebody who sells on Etsy and loves Etsy, I hate the fees. I think it's unnecessary. I think it's rude. I hate it. I hate it so much. It really cuts into my profit, which sucks. But I do think that at the end of the day, it is kind of worth it. And I'm actually going to explain some things I found out about some of the fees recently that I thought was pretty funny. So, obviously, nobody wants to price their products higher than they need to. But I think at this point in society, everybody understands that Etsy charges a lot of fees. So, if somebody's going to shop on Etsy, they're going to understand that it might be priced a little bit higher than if they were to buy it mass produced on Amazon or something like that, because it is handmade, one, and two, because everybody knows Etsy charges a lot for their fees. If you don't know, I had a Shopify website. I think I opened it in 2022 and I recently closed it because I couldn't afford to keep it up. It wasn't driving as much traffic. I was getting 80% of my traffic through Etsy. And so I found that it was more important for me to focus on making sure my prices were right on Etsy than it was to keep a website up just for the sake of having my own website. That being said, I spent a lot of time looking at the fees, figuring out exactly what they're charging, and figuring out how I could work with that so that I could still make the profit that I wanted to. And I feel like Etsy is worth the money so that I don't have to market. If I don't want to post on Instagram one day, I don't have to, but I can still kind of count on that I'm going to get a sale on Etsy because it is a search engine for people to find products like mine that they're looking for. Now, when I had my website on Shopify, if I didn't post that day, I wasn't getting sales. The only people that were thinking about my website were people who were seeing me post on social media and were reminded that I have a business. So it's a lot more work to have your own website, even though it is cheaper. And honestly, I don't even know if it's cheaper because you are paying a yearly fee. And depending on what you sell, it might even add up to being the fees that Etsy takes out of each purchase. I don't know. Don't quote me on that. I haven't done the math, but maybe I should. Okay, let's get into the fees, and I'm going to read off this piece of paper so that I get it right.
Quickly, before we get into the fees, I do want to mention, since I filmed this, I learned that they do charge $15 to start your Etsy shop, but I believe that's just a one-time fee. You pay that right when you're signing up, and then that's it. You never have to pay it again. It's not a yearly thing, but it is to deter like scammers and also just drop shippers and people who aren't fully committed. But I just learned that, so I wanted to go ahead and include that because I didn't talk about it in this video.
So Etsy takes 6.5% of the price displayed for the listing, which includes shipping. I personally have never understood why they take money for the shipping price. However, I found out why, and I think it's kind of funny. So years ago, I guess they didn't charge a fee on the shipping price. So a lot of people on Etsy were selling their shirts, for example. They were selling their shirts for $1, which they're going to take 6.5% of. And then they were making the actual price of the shirt into the shipping cost. So, say $25 for shipping, so that they were making $25 on that sale and there was no fee taken out of that $25. So basically they were inversing their shipping with their product price so that they wouldn't lose on any fees, which I think is genius, but I also think it's like, come on guys, now we have to pay shipping fees because y'all couldn't behave. But I totally get it. If I had been on Etsy, I can't say that I wouldn't have done the same thing because the fees are crazy. And it's like when you sell really small things, like for example, my stickers, it's hard to up your price any more than a couple dollars a year. And it's like, yeah, inflation, but also nobody wants to pay $10 for a sticker. So you have to definitely stay within a certain range for items. And so that kind of sucks. And I get it, is all I'm trying to say. I get why they did it. But I obviously, it sucks now because we have to pay a fee on shipping, which is stupid in my opinion. Also, if you can't tell, this is not sponsored by Etsy. So anyway, back to the fees. They take the 6.5% of the price displayed. So whatever your customer is seeing, they take 6.5% of that. Etsy also takes an additional 3% plus 25 cents for processing and the payment, which is like fine, whatever. And then they take 20 cents for each listing. So you have to pay 20 cents once you list it at first, like when you're listing all your stickers or whatever they may be. And then also after the purchase, they charge another 20 cents to relist the items that you have left over in that listing, if that makes sense. I feel like I'm saying listing too many times. Anyway, so I'm going to walk you through an example and tell you kind of the math breakdown of what you would need to charge for a product in order to make it make sense for you. So I am going to continue to read off of this piece of paper, but I wanted to break it down for you guys to where you can see that it is doable and it's not the end of the world. So if you're pricing products correctly, a general rule of thumb is your cost times 4. And sometimes with smaller items, you can get a little bit more than that, but that's the general rule of where you want to start out for how you're pricing your products. Now, a lot of people forget to include the 20-cent listing fee when you're first listing it and the 20-cent listing fee when it's going to be renewed, and then also all of the fees. So those are part of your cost. You need to account for those in your cost price before you multiply by 4. Now, once you multiply by 4, it is obviously going to be more percentage that they're taking out, which is where it gets tricky. But I'm going to walk you through a little example, so stay with me. Let's say you make keychains and you want to sell them for $6 because that's what you're seeing other people sell them for on Etsy. And then you have to charge $4 for shipping because that's pretty much how much shipping costs. So that's $10 total is what Etsy sees on your listing. So they're going to take 6.5% of $10, which is 65 cents. Then they'll take 3% plus 25 cents. So 30 cents plus 25 cents plus the 65 cents. Then another 20 cents to renew the listing if you have more than one item, which comes out to $1.40 in fees that they're taking from your $6 keychain with $4 shipping. So you're making $8.60 off of that sale, but you have to account for the shipping label that you're about to buy. So you're making $4.60 off of a $6 keychain. I personally think that sounds great. However, if your keychains cost you $3 or $4 to make, obviously you're not making a profit. But if you're buying in bulk and everything that you do only costs you about $1 to make each keychain, then you are making 4 times more than it costs you to make. So that would be worth it. Long story short, and moral of the story, make sure you're doing the math ahead of time before you start listing things. What I do every year, or even like at the half of the year in June or July, I'll sit down, look at the new pricing I'm paying for sticker paper, for the lamination, for everything I use, my envelopes, my shipping labels, everything I use in order to ship one sticker. I will write down the cost, make sure it's still in a range that's comfortable for me, and then I'll do the math and figure out how much Etsy will take from that order and then what I'm left with so that I'm comfortable with what I'm making on each sale. I hope you guys found this video helpful. If you did, please give me a like and subscribe for more videos. And like always, leave me a comment down below. Let me know what you want to see next time, what questions you have that you want me to answer, and I will see you guys in the next video.